Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Poiema Studio podcast. You know what I'm saying? I hope everybody's doing well, staying safe and sane out there.
Yes.
And before we get started, my name's AJ, one half of this wonderful dynamic duo for the podcast studio, as you could tell. And then, of course, with me, with the cowboy boots and the flannels, we have my beautiful co-host.
Thank you, AJ. Yeah, these cowboy boots from my neighbor upstairs, Able Shop. You want your vintage Fuji, you gotta go upstairs. They have awesome stuff. On another note, thank you, AJ. Yes, it's Gabby here at Poiema Studio.
Ooh.
Thank you guys for joining us at Tuesday Night Podcast, a podcast that brings up conversation about mental health and suicide prevention.
Yes. Before we get started, though, if you see here, a godly, disembodied voice in the background, that'll be our wonderful, wonderful cameraman and homie. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Just shout out.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me here. This heavenly voice, I should say it's me, Eduardo Rojas.
Hey.
The godly voice is you, AJ, so I'm looking forward to it. So it's just an honor just being here.
Thank you.
Thank
You can find him at, of course, Cosmico_Intoxicado, right? And then we
Cosmico Intoxicado.
And then we got, of course, Gabby Vargas.
Yeah, that
But
Poiema.
Poiema Studio Elgin as well, and then Poiema Studio AJ, and then shout out Bleach Fajitas. Okay, but enough of the plugs.
Yeah.
Another shout out to Joel Amore because he did paint this beautiful, gorgeous mural in honor of a friend we lost to suicide. So we're here creating awareness and just bringing up the conversation that a lot of times we don't want to talk about.
Of course, and I think tonight's conversation is going to be one that personally I can attest to. I know Ed can attest to. And then I know, Gabby, you've been around people, of course, because your whole work kind of stems around men's mental health, So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. So I don't know how we want to get it kickstarted because it's such a broad topic, but I think a good way to start is kind of explaining like maybe the statistics, you know what I'm saying? Because I know you had some information you wanted to share previously from a friend that you had.
Yeah, well, I was talking to a friend pretty soon, a guest that will be here talking about his experiences and his podcast that he has about mental health. Ole, he posted something that kind of took me to that topic. So it said, this week is Men's Health Week. 84 men a week take their own life, and 75% of suicides are male. Men are less likely to get help, but speaking up saves lives. Let's encourage men to speak up, not man up. And for me, I think as a suicide loss survivor, it is a passion of mine, a purpose to bring up the conversation, because I think that a lot of times we don't want to speak about suicide when it's something that affects every community. And it's very alarming that 8 out of 10 suicides are men.
It's very scary because, 8 out of 10, that's 80% out of 100. Like, that's a lot of people. And I could speak, I guess, in the sense of feeling that weight and pressure, because I feel like it's hard to say in the sense that women and men feel things differently and have different obstacles. Women have had many, many obstacles, but I think they've had a better ability of communicating. So they've had it a lot better there, at least in communication. There's a lot of other things that needed to progress, but communication has always been key for women, I think. And I think men have never really had that. Yeah. Like, talking has always been seemed as, less than, like, either back in the day, like, you'd be called gay for that, which I don't know why. Shout out to all my gay homies, you know what I'm saying? LGBT plus, of course. That's where we're at. But, just things like that. It's just a lot of stigma that I think really men internalize, especially in the Western side of society, because there's so many, roles that we're supposed to fill, supposed to be. But in a world so unique, people can't really always fit into a box like that. So then I feel like it causes a lot of problems because you're you're questioning yourself, and feeling like, well, why am I not like this? If this is what a guy's supposed to be like, why am I not, into cars, or why am I not like super hyper masculine and things of that nature,
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of, I think that's one of the first biggest issues.
The boxes that you have to fit into in society. And I think one of them, like, not talking about your emotions and feelings is a huge one, not just in our culture, like in Mexico, but in other different communities. You know, there exists that same stigma that men are seen as weak if they express, if they're emotional.
Right.
And, you know, I've raised my boys, and like as a single mom, I think that that is one of the hardest thing, like for a lot of women that are raising boys, is we have that nurturing side, but then we also have to like show that, I guess, that masculine energy. And so it's very hard even for me to say, like, sometimes like I find myself in that struggle, like how do I speak to my teenager when he sees me kind of like mom and also kind of like dad.
Right.
So that's another thing that I think we don't usually talk about is, for women, how can you express a healthy conversation with your son that, you know, maybe it can be a little bit tough if you don't have that masculine like role model.
I guess I could kind of say from my point of view, because I live with my mom mostly. Like, my dad was there, of course, but it was more so my dad was in another state, so it was always hard to get that that kind of like, to look at him like a role model in a sense. Looked at him more as like a figure, like not a role model, but more like a hero, because it's somebody so far away, and like somebody that I never got to see like all the flaws of, only saw really like the good pieces in the beginning. So I always looked at my mom, I guess, as both my mom and my dad, you know, because she would take me to my games and all that stuff and be there for my practices. So I don't think it's that you need a manly figure for to explain that to a person. I think what gets a lot of guys, or a lot of people though, in those situations is, again, it's the social stigma that like you're supposed to have a mom and a dad, you know. So when you don't fit again into that certain criteria, it's like really it really secludes you, you know what I mean, and you feel like taken out from everybody else, and especially during a period of like growth and needing to have that stability, that emotional stability as a kid, like it takes a toll on you as a child. But I think as a parent, even especially as a single mother, it's just trying to teach your child the right things, you know what I mean? It's like, just because you're not a man doesn't mean, you know, man in the sense, doesn't mean that you can't instill these gentleman-like things into your child.
For sure.
You know,
For
so
sure.
I think it's just trying to get past that point.
Yeah. And I think that you're so right on all the, you know, points that you gave. But I think coming from a place of like the healthy emotional balance, you know, I think that we need to talk about this more, because like we really weren't taught these emotional like relationship like limits or like healthy boundaries in the relationship that we grew up in, even and friends. You know, we were talking about that earlier. How do you have good communication with people that are trying to help you out? Like, as a man, if you're not used to speaking up about how you feel, maybe you weren't even like given an opportunity to share about how you feel, and you're already put into this category that you should be strong, that you should be like the man, that you should be hold it together, and everybody's waiting for you to, you know, have like, I guess, control, or like to be that leader. And then all of a sudden you're going through something, and it's like, how do you open up? You know, like, it's, I think for women, or just for anyone, it's hard to help someone that maybe are afraid to open up because they're not in a safe environment to do so. Yeah, they're gonna switch mics because we can't hear AJ's
technical difficulties. Oh my gosh. Are we back, guys?
Yes, we're back.
And we back.
Yeah, for me,
Oh man. Oh.
so we're talking about conditioning. Like, for me, like, bringing up those like beliefs as a woman, I think is going to be important in this podcast, because I want you to share, and like I want other men to share, like, how do we bring the communication to not an agreement, I would say, how do we talk to each other? Like, how can women talk to a man and say, how are you doing? And how can men open up about their emotions? Or what can we do different to bring these statistics down? Like, what is happening more in a man's life, in a male's life, that they're deciding that it's better not to be in this world?
Personally, I think it's a lot of this, you know, labeling shit as gender too, because then you start secluding people and excluding people from these situations, and it's like, oh, well, women are only feeling this, or men are only feeling this, you know. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and it so happens, of course, that men are going through this more. But I think what we need to do is just kind of break walls down and allow men to just be themselves, you know, and not tell them that they have to be what we call men. You know what I'm saying? Just, I think men are just being yourself is being a man. Yeah. Being true to yourself and like what you believe in and what you love. That I think personally that's what being a man is. Yeah. And I think same thing for being a woman. It's just being yourself or whatever you define as such. And I think that's one of the things that we need to push. First off is being okay and learning how not being okay, but you know, getting people to be comfortable with their self-image and who they are as a person. Yeah, because I think that's where it all stems from is wanting to be somebody else. Yeah, because there's an image portrayed of what you should be, so everybody fantasizes of what they should be rather than what they are.
Yeah, that's true.
And you struggle with that because then you're never gonna be happy.
It's like that self-acceptance, right?
Exactly.
And self-love, like loving who you really are and truly loving that person. But you know, also I think that at a young age, like when you were in high school, at least, like you're about to be 18 years old and you're expected to know like who you are, what you want to be, and like your identity. And that's one of the hardest things as well. Right. If you're in a community where you don't feel as accepted, maybe because you've been conditioned to believe that you have to be a certain way. And also, I think that we need to talk more about men being vulnerable, period. Just being more open. I actually watched a YouTube video of a suicide loss survivor. He lost his son. And he said that one of the things that he wished his son knew about him was how much he had failed in life. Because his son took his life because he was being bullied. And he felt like he was failing because he never saw his dad like as a weak man. And so he says, I wish my son would have known that I, you know, had failed at so many businesses, that I cried myself to sleep sometimes. But I wanted to show my kids like this perfect father figure that really never existed. Right. You know, so for men to show vulnerability, like it's okay. It's okay for you to be hurting. It's okay for like I come across so many men that are heartbroken, going through this grief of losing someone, and they don't seek the help, or like even grief in general, like because men are not the type to get like usually to get therapy. Yeah. It's more like women, and like what you were saying, for women, like we talk to our girlfriends, we talk to our coworkers, we're more open, you know, it's okay for women to cry. Like
it's more socially accepted for you guys to be like that, you know, for you guys to like, you know, for girls to go together to the bathroom, you know, and girls to do all these things together and be discomfortable, you know, and you know how girls compliment each other like, oh, girl, you look so good. Yeah. Guys don't really do that, you know, because, again, it's the whole fear of being, like, portrayed as something that you're not or weaker for showing any kind of affection or emotion. Yeah. So I think that's where we struggle because we're emotional creatures, emotional and social. And if we don't express it's just going to bottle up. So that's the thing that really gets to me too, you know, is of course that social standard. Right now, a lot of it is socially forced on us. So again, we're trying to fit people into standards that there's no way we're ever going to be able to fit into. Yeah.
And also like the belief of certain things in your life that you feel like you have to continue believing in. And, you know, you want to like maybe not believe in some things that your parents have taught you, or like, you know, I just think it's like breaking that generational tradition sometimes, and it could be different ones, but feeling like that courage to go out of the box of what you've been taught, you know, and also like changing it like in your future generations. I think that like as a young mom, like there were so many things that I didn't know that I still don't know today, and I'm working on. Like so many parents, like we've never been taught parenting, you know, and now like we're dealing with some parents are dealing with children that are dealing with issues that they've been dealing themselves.
Yeah, I think I want to bring it back to what you said about vulnerability. Yeah. And it's really good that people or the parents show vulnerability to kids. You know, of course, don't like tell your kid everything. Like you don't have to cry to your kid, like break down and be like, I got fired, son. You know, like but show them that it's okay, you know, to not be strong all the time. Because if you portray that to your son or your daughter or whatever, then I feel like that's something they internalize and they're like, I have to be like that. Yeah. Like I can't break down.
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, who cares if you cry in front of your children? I have, and
like, again, I never saw my dad do that shit. Like, I never saw my dad cry.
Yeah.
Really, like, I've never seen him cry. So, like, as a child, I just internalized the way he was, and I assumed that that's how a man was supposed to be. So every time I cried, or every time I felt weak, or I didn't do what I thought my dad would do, I would literally, like, not physically, not like literally, but like metaphorically beat myself up for it, you know, and tear myself down, because I internalized this judge that doesn't exist, you know, or the standard that doesn't exist. Because I'm pretty sure my dad cries, you know, I'm pretty sure he's done it before, like, or he's gotten sad and like messed up in situations where I haven't seen, you know, but he hasn't portrayed that, so I internalized that as that's what I'm supposed to be. And I don't think he meant it on purpose. I think he just understood that, like, that's how he was raised, you know. But I think showing kids that you're not 100% like, you know, like invincible shows them that they don't have to worry about being such.
Yeah, and that they can come to you, and that you're gonna like hear them out. That you're not gonna judge them.
Yep.
A lot of times we feel like the answer or the reply to when we ask for help can be defensive, you know. And I think that that's something that I work on even now. Like, how can I be more open with my child and be like non-judgmental? Because I've needed someone to be like that with me, you know, like we all need someone to understand us, that we're not perfect, that we just need a safe place or a safe person to, you know, come to vent, to figure things out when things aren't going right, you know, 'cause sometimes we can, you know, like see like that there's no options when we're struggling with things.
Of course.
Like we could just like be blinded by problems or by a situation, and then, you know, we tend to think like, oh, no one's going to understand me. But, you know, if you could find those certain, like, few friends or like family members that are willing to, you know, be there for you without judging you and showing empathy, I think that's so important for anyone, regardless of gender, which is, you know, again, what we're talking about today, men's mental health. Just because we want to know what can we do in this platform to bring more awareness to this topic, and how can we, you know, plant a small seed to change these statistics.
Of course, and always as a disclaimer, we aren't professionals. You know, this is just more, of course, a conversation starter.
Yeah.
And also to get more people aware of the situation that's going on with men's mental health and suicide prevention, and just to break the stigma, you know, because some people are understanding of what it is or the fear of it, and we'll hope to get you a little bit more knowledgeable on the situation, a little bit more understanding of it, and then whether or not you need to change or you know somebody who needs to change, we can prepare you with better tools and resources to do such, and hopefully you know, allow you to believe in this topic, because I feel like more people need to believe and understand that this is a real situation. Yeah,
and hopefully if you're listening to this podcast episode out there, you can look at your brother and husband and boyfriend and coworker in a different way, and maybe reach out and say, how are you doing, you know? In the next episode, we'll dig deeper into some of the signs. We have a special guest for you guys. And again, let us know in the comments, like, what topics you guys want us to talk about. Please. Share your stories with us. If there's a story you would like us to share anonymously, like, we really look forward to being the voice of the voiceless and sharing stories that maybe are not so easy to share. And so you guys can find us again on YouTube as Poiema Studio Podcast. Thank you so much for sharing this conversation and this night with us.
Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Yes. Whatever you need to do, notification bells, doesn't matter. Just stay up to date with us, because we would like to take you on a date.
Yes. Thank you so much for just allowing us to have these conversations in general.
Yes. Thank you for spending your time with us, and we hope you have a wonderful night tonight. Yes. You know, stay safe and sane as usual. Shout out Cosmico_intoxicado out behind the camera, you know.
Yes.
And then shout out
with Cosmic Creations.
Ooh.
Yes.
All right.
Have a good night. See you guys next Tuesday.
Fire.